All right, Fresh, let's go to our second game of the weekend. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they're 2-0, but they really haven't played anybody low-ranked competition. They're traveling to Raleigh, North Carolina to face on the Wolfpack. NC State, they won their game. They're 1-0. Right now, Notre Dame is also a 7.5-point road favorite. Over-under is set at 51.5. Sam Hartman's been just as good as advertised, completing 83% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But if the Wolfpack can do one thing, Fresh, we know that they can play some defense. Where are you seeing with Notre Dame versus NC State?
Well, first off, you mentioned it. Sam Hartman's back in ACC country. He is 1-2 as a starter versus NC State, and both those losses coming in Carter Finley Stadium. So this is a kind of a house of horrors for him. He has not won there. Maybe it's a chance for him to reverse the curse, if you will, and get the W. But it's really going to come down to him and this entire team maintaining their focus they had in the first 2 games of the season. They went out and they've dominated up to this point. They have obliterated both their opponents. Can they match that for this football game? They're going on the road to a true, I'm going to say, hostile environment. It's going to be a noon kick early, eggs and kegs. Can they get focused and be ready to play a pretty solid NC State football team right off the bat? This is not Navy. This is not Tennessee State, not Tennessee Tech, not Middle Tennessee State, not Western Illinois, not whoever. They've got to show up against a quality football team and be able to match them and actually show us that they're truly legit. They've shown ever since that clunky start last year when they lost to Marshall and they lost to Stanford, the last few games, they've been tearing through people playing great football on both sides. But now here, it's 2023. We saw a lot of success early and they did a clunker. Can you keep the momentum going this year? I have noticed that with Hartman at quarterback and Coach Freeman, the leadership factor on this Notre Dame football team is a lot different than it was last year. They are determined to play from start to finish and execute at the best of their ability. They're not taking anything for chance. I've not seen a Notre Dame team level opponents like they have the past 2 weeks. And I'll look at the heart they put in the comeback for South Carolina in the bowl game. This team is different. They've changed from the Brian Kelly administration, and they have taken on the own identity of their own coach. They're playing a lot tougher, a lot more ruthless, for lack of a better term. And if they can keep that focus going at NC State, it's going to keep setting it up for a big run because 2 weeks after that, they get to host the Buckeyes. So you can go out here, lay a solid foundation, and keep building momentum for that Ohio State game, or you keep looking toward the Ohio State game and overlook NC State, and then you're in trouble. That's where Coach Freeman's got to keep, and Hartman's got to keep their team locked in and focused of, we've got to maintain in the moment, and we've got to play here. NC State kind of looked a little sluggish in their opener versus UConn. I was very worried, and it's kind of something I'm going to keep worrying about, was their lack of physicality at the offensive line. They had, I think, 9 or 10 plays within the 5-yard line, and they only scored on one of them. If you're playing UConn, Jim Moore, you've done a great job there. But NC State, you've got to be able to, your offensive line's got to be able to run that football and be able to take over that line of scrimmage and drive them off the ball. There's disruption all over the place. That's a problem right there because you're going to play better football teams in the ACC and you're going to play Notre Dame. They're going to eat you a lot. So that was a very sluggish start. Armstrong didn't come out and connect with the receivers in the flow that I thought they were going to have or they have in the past. So they didn't look like they were even ready to play UConn. Can they turn the switch and be ready for Notre Dame? Maybe they were looking ahead of Notre Dame. Maybe they don't want to show anything. But they've got to be able to come out from the very first snap and play efficient football and put points on the board. If not, they're going to get in a shootout, and I don't know if they can hang. They've got to play at their own pace, and they've got to be able to dictate and be the aggressor against Notre Dame, not be taken to the woodshed, or it could get real ugly pretty early. I have no doubt in my mind Notre Dame will cover the 7.5. No doubt in my mind. This football team has impressed me the way they've continued to grow as a group, and I've got a feeling they're on a mission, and they're going to come in there, they're going to take care of business on Saturday. Now, when it comes to the over-under at 51.5, the Wolfpack offense has kind of been in a funk. The Irish are going to have to carry the weight to get the 51.5. They're going to have to carry the load to get over that number. And if Notre Dame struggles and the Wolfpack plays some kind of defense, this number might be in peril as you get toward the end of it. I got a feeling it's going to be close, but I got a feeling this is going to hit the over a little bit. They're going to be like a 54 total points in this game. but it's going to be till the very end. You're going to be sitting there sweating it out. But I think they hit the over, but just barely, and Notre Dame's going to provide that finishing touch.
Yeah, Fresh, we're going to be talking so much about Sam Hartman, and you're right. Leadership has gone a long way, especially what he's done making that transition to Notre Dame. They look like a different team. I was a little bit higher on them going into the season than you were, and I think that this was maybe one of the factors that I was kind of thinking about. Jaden Thomas and Mitchell Evans have been everything that Sam Hartman needs them to be. But in this game right now, I went back and I looked at what the Wolfpack defense did. NC State held UConn to 33% on third down, which is very impressive, especially with their defense. And that's the one thing that kind of can travel well. It's also one thing that when you go into Raleigh, that NC State defense can be very, very tough. But I don't think Sam Hartman's going to be the big name in this game. I think it's going to be Audric Esime. And the reason why I say it's going to be Esime in this game is due to the fact that NC State uncharacteristically was allowing 6.2 yards a carry to UConn. And usually NC State has a much better rush defense than what we are seeing. Now, Esime already has 210 yards on the season. He's got a couple of scores, and he's averaging 7.3 yards a carry. This kid is going to be leaned on heavily in this game because I think that's going to be how they're going to be able to soften up the NC State defense. You're right. Armstrong wasn't great. It's not what we thought we would see from him for NC State, but really it's going to fall back on the shoulders of Jordan Houston. We need to see more out of that running back. We need to see him be able to take some of the load off of Armstrong, because not only was it with Armstrong throwing the ball 26 times, he also ran the ball 19 times. Now, he had 96 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, which good for him. Congratulations, my man. But you can't, it's the same problem we see with time and time again. When the quarterback becomes too much of the offense, things get really, really scary. I'm 7.5 seems like a lot for Notre Dame. And again, I think NC State's got the defense. I just don't know if they have the offense to, if Notre Dame gets up 2 or 3 scores, is NC State going to be able to score enough to make this close and for them to come back? If NC State wants to win this game, they got to play from ahead. They got to get some quick points early on, maybe force Notre Dame into a couple of quick 3-and-outs or get a turnover here and there. Notre Dame's done a really good job of protecting the football so far. Again, first 2 weeks of the season, competition has been the greatest. You're getting a much better competition now. We're going to know a lot about Notre Dame after week number 3 or week number 2 here, their third game. And we'll kind of get an idea of what kind of matchup we should expect in a couple of weeks against Ohio State. I like Notre Dame in this game. I don't know if I love the 7.5. I'm kind of right at that number for me. I'm at 7.5, 8 points. So I probably would, if I'm taking Notre Dame, I will take the points with them. Again, with you, that 51.5, man, I'm going to say I'll take the under on that one. I think it's going to be Notre Dame carrying most of that over-under. I could see maybe a 28-14 type of game, 28-17 type of game. I think it's going to be really difficult to get to that 51.5 right there. But maybe NC State surprises me. If NC State can, put up 21 points themselves, then I think that over is going to come in. So, because I really do believe, I'm pretty confident Notre Dame's win this football game. It's just the over-under is the one where I really start to struggle.
Well, Haps, before we move on, the one way NC State wins this ball game is if they wake up the echoes of Phillip Rivers, T.A. McClendon, Jericho Cotchery, Chuck Amato, aka Chuck the Chest. They've got to get that team, and I think that's actually probably the best NC State team ever. And I saw them actually ironically play in the Gator Bowl versus Notre Dame back in the day with my neighbors who are NC State grads. And when that team was loaded and they were dominating, that NC State fan base was rowdy. And if this team is going to pull up the upset on Saturday, they need to wake up those echoes, get those memories churning, be loud, and play at that level, because that was a lethal offense. And if they do, then craziness in Raleigh all night long will be a heck of a weekend.
Absolutely.